Welcome to the Freedom Lover's Life. I think this is episode 4 now. I'm really excited to have Emily Bron. Emily, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce your name. I apologize if I just butchered it. But I'm really excited to have you on the podcast, Emily, because we've had webinars and talk before, and knowing you for quite a few years now, and I just love your story, your history, and it really resonates with a lot of people because I can talk about, hey, I'm seeing governments going towards more authoritarian socialism type of things, but I didn't grow up in that. I grew up in a very normalized Canada, for instance, and so you have a lot more credibility speaking to this. I mean, I see what I see, but you've seen it before in your lifetime. So maybe you can just give us a little introduction of how you grew up and how you ended up in Canada, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me, and I'm happy to share my story with your listeners. Just to rewind the movie, I was born in a country which does not exist anymore, former Soviet Union. But you know what? I am actually grateful that I was coming from this world, because it's giving me really different perspective, different from people who grew up in the West, from what's going on. And I lived in a time, actually Soviet time, and was educated in kind of standard Soviet school. By the way, we all had the same educational system. I mean, whatever we learned in Moldova, I born in Moldova, was the same we learned in Russia or other republic at the time of the big country. And yes, and I was raised as a devoted young, I cannot say communist, no, I was not, but like believing in what I was taught in school. And by the way, there were some good features in our society. I cannot say that all was bad, but at least we get good education. I was comparing after that with Canadian educational system, which is, in my view, totally disaster. But with all brainwashing we've had, we get another education. I mean, on a subject that would help us in a life, whatever was understanding of our teachers and parents. And actually, my parents were teachers in a school. And that's why, all this was supported around me. But when Perestroika started and I became student in university back in Soviet Union, and actually reading the books and looking around, it was still closed society, like our socialistic camp, I would say. We even to get to other country, like socialistic country, like Bulgaria or Poland, it was kind of big deal because borders were closed. But yes, in university, actually there were students from other socialistic countries or from Africa, because we supported Africa, we supported India, we supported all, poor people who were fighting capitalism and stuff like that. But, we started to understand. And because when you see the nice word in a book, a newspaper, say, in reality on the ground, if you have at least some brain, you see that something is not matching. And when Perestroika, the period, if some people don't know, when it was openly after Gorbachev came to power, and I'm really grateful to this man. Well, whoever saying he brought disaster to the Soviet Union and as a country and all the camp, but actually he provided me personally and many people opportunity to get out of Soviet Union, and I left Soviet Union when it was still the country. But it was a lot of publication coming closed before, or even, we were reading, and as I say, we people like educated people, we've had this dissident literature, which was printed out, and, underground, I mean, people were giving to their friends to read the Orwell, the other books, a lot of like American or other books that were not officially permitted in our libraries. But in time of perestroika, it all became kind of open. And not only this, but many archives, not all, with truth about what happened in Stalin time. It was not known before, but not, to this extent. And not only Stalin, we understand that all the system, at least I understand, and other people coming from the beginning of revolution, socialistic revolution, starting from Lenin, Stalin, and following leaders, like in my mind, I understood that it's incorrect, and all our achievement, and there were achievement, I mean, in industry and arts and sports that were so advertised, even in space development, actually had different side, because millions of people were killed. Millions of people who have different opinion, dissident people, or just people who had good working habits, I would say, like from agriculture, all people who had money, and it was several campaigns during the history. But okay, I don't want to go to because the history is pretty long and disastrous, but it gave me and many people understanding, and I said I don't want to live in such country. And even at time of perestroika, it was a hope at the beginning that, now it's open and we will be living better life and democracy will come from the West. I believed in West at the time, as many of us, and we will, because, many people wanted change. It was obvious that economically Soviet Union, in my view, would not exist anymore. And different ideas of freedom were taking people kind of on the different page. But after some events that we witnessed on TV and newspaper, our family, and at this time I lived in Ukraine. When I married, I moved to Ukraine. It was kind of not big deal, like different, now it's a different country, but it was still Soviet. And I was speaking Russian in each of the country I lived in, including Russia, Moldova, and Ukraine. Our family decided to immigrate to Israel. It was at the time only way to get out of country, like Jewish, and I'm Jewish, were permitted to go to Israel. And yes, and it was completely new experience, and we didn't know language, kind of culture. It was all new, a new system. But I would say it was the brightest period in my life, and I learned a lot about who I am. And I think the most who I am was formed in Israel. I was 24 at this time. Like I was already, married with child, but, my sense of identity, and because I didn't know all this before. Like I knew who are my parents, but like different culture, mentality, and wonderful country. But it happened that after 7 years living in Israel, actually because of terrorism, which started after Oslo Accord was signed by U.S., Israel, and Palestinian Authority, the terrorism wrapped up in Israel. It's what we see now, continuation of all this. And we were, look, when you're going to work, kind of day to day, and the bus before you is bombed, like exploded, and you're not afraid, but you go to work anyway. Okay, we didn't have enough guts, I would say, and we decided that we will move to peaceful country, which country Canada looked like actually years before, and all these ideas. For some reason, we didn't want to go to US. We liked the idea of Canada. And being still a young family, we just applied and get permitted on, a professional immigration visa. We became permanent residents in 1997. So 8 years I am in Canada. And with all the hardship of the first year of immigration, again, language and profession I changed in every country I lived, and raising the family, I started notice that Canada, it's remind me somehow of Soviet Union. When I started to work, I know it might be unexpected to hear from some of you, but at the beginning I was kind of turning it to the good side, because like I knew the difference between Canada, say in United States, that Canada is more kind of care about people, more benefit programs, more for people, like which actually I became from leftist. I was raised as leftist in Israel. I turned be kind of even I don't like this left right,
Yeah, no, me neither. I pretty much say I'm libertarian and try to stay in the middle.
Yeah, but I didn't know the other words. I mean, perspective was totally shifted when you see the difference. And in every country, we started from zero. We came without money to Israel. $150 per person, and that's it. It's all we didn't have a lot, but it is it was different mentality, but people were helping each other, and it's one story. In Canada, we kind of started again from zero, and I thought somehow the second immigration will be easier than first one, because we have experience, we have experience living in the West, say whatever, but Israel, it's a Western society. And I worked in a bank in Israel. Okay, I didn't want to do it in Canada anymore. But, I was kind of surprised, and we discussed it at home. The educational system was kind of some, but let's keep it. Because whatever was 27 ago, it's a different country. And what I see lately, I am, my heart is bleeding. And I was always thinking, okay, so what Canadians who were born in this country, and lived for several generations, and now seeing kind of destruction, in my view, destruction of the system and society, they were grown up. Because like I was,
yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at. That's sort of what I see now, right?
Yeah.
We were talking on the previous episode with some other folks about how one gentleman mentioned to me, you're only 3 generations away from forgetting the lessons of the past, right? And and I grew up in Canada. I was born in the 60s, which was only 20-ish years after World War II. So, and my parents were ethnically they're German, right? So we were pretty much told you don't speak German, just speak English, right? And you don't want to be associated with being German, so recently after the war. But we learned those lessons of what to look for, like when the leader of the country is doing things like they're doing today in Canada, watch for that, right? Be open-minded to seeing that, because socialism, for instance, has never worked anywhere in any country, right? So when you start seeing things like, freezing bank accounts and those sorts of things, enacting the Emergency or War Act and that sort of thing, it really, was kind of shocking to me, right? And, to see that my country is doing those sorts of things. So I don't know how you feel about it, having seen, what kind of things you said you started to see this, the signs of socialism, authoritarianism coming in Canada. What type of things were you seeing that kind of made you think?
Okay, it just happened that working in Toronto as IT contractor, I was working for more than 20 organizations. And these organizations were and are were mostly government organization on municipal, federal, and provincial levels. I was working in ministries. I was working in almost all Canadian banks, insurance companies, and companies of this level. And the organizational structure, I was looking kind of inside. I was as IT consultant as quality assurance, because I should have overview the process in IT, but was connected with other department as well. And specifically in government organization, I was always surprised, because it seems to me not exactly capitalism how they working, but I understood it. Bureaucratic systems, they have their legacy, rules, but I noticed a kind of new people coming, and they bring kind of new idea. I didn't know that it's new, because for me all was new, coming. And in every company, that's why I didn't want to have even a full-time work. I cannot, only contractor. I don't want to be part of the internal politics. It's what I always hate in organization. Okay, I do my work. Thank you very much. And even it's a very hard way, I'm always on the market. I'm looking for the next contract. But apparently next company I've seen almost the same. It's different, based on the business accent, and obviously with people management. But let's put it aside. So I started to think during the work, why they do all this unnecessary work? Why they spend money on bullshit, sorry, in my view. I mean, because I was dealing with business unit, like, you can do it much better. Efficiently, but I was told, I was working for years in municipality, because it's union, and people need to have work for the next year. Okay, so this union started to remind me union in Soviet Union, because we had unions as well, and these unions were exactly not on the side of kind of employees and workers, but they had their own interest, actually, which was under kind of KGB and other bodies. So here, I understood about unions long ago, even living in Soviet, what is the unions and what's their purpose? And that unions corrupting kind of industrial system, affecting, we would not say affecting. In Canada, more than, say, in United States, it's what the difference between economical success, I would say. Even unions are still very strong in the United States as well. Okay, we will not go to details. But when COVID started, when I was always voting conservatives in Canada, just because because whatever they were saying, at least it makes sense. At least, as I say, they were, thinking about economical growth. At least they were counting money, because all other sides, they were kind of living in la la land, in my opinion, with all this nice words. What we really don't like, people from former socialistic countries, is propaganda, all these nice words, which really sounds nice, and they're good, under these words, usually we're very suspicious. Something is going on. Because, yes, freedom sounds good, and democracy, and when the 25 times they speak about how they're helping people, show me what you did. It's my approach. Not how much did you spend, but what was built, what was done, what was developed. Now I'm speaking about economy. When COVID started, I was in a shock. At the beginning, I believed that something is going on, but how our government started to deal, I thought the worst way how it can be done, it was done. Close people, I didn't agree with, but at the beginning I thought, okay, they look all countries, and I started to look what other countries are doing. They're kind of doing the same, but I said, okay, they can be wrong all the same at the same time. After then, I understood that it was kind of organized accord, but I understood, but it's very strange because it's against common sense. Even I'm not scientist, but it's against common sense not to get, not to help people medically. We were not accepted to the hospital, but people who need it only when you feel very bad. What does it mean? You treat people when they at the beginning of the disease. I was looking from the people perspective, but and I understood they want to break the economy. I understood it like what they do. They want to eliminate middle class. I understand because who is suffering the most economically? Like all these, small businesses closed and all. It's the middle class because big businesses they still open and taking all the money, from other sources, and all this and other observations. And you know what kind of proved me us, and I discussed with my mom at home, and she remembers that time when in our Canadian kind of papers, they started to actually to divide between vaccinated and not vaccinated. And even I vaccinated. I didn't understand why I should kind of hate. Okay, it's their choice. And by the way, why I vaccinated? Because I wanted to travel, because I wanted to go to Panama and other countries, and I knew that without this vaccination, I would be not allowed to be on plane. I didn't think the time that it was so what they did, it's a crime against humanity. But as my thinking was, developing at the time, and they were saying that, okay, people should look at the neighbor who is accepting other people, like in the guest, because we had really, lockdown was really harsh. And when people started, as we say in Russian, to knock to the government, to say on your neighbor or your family member, okay, it's the Soviet Union. It's what they want to do. Because it's how it was, like alienate people against each other, to divide us to the groups. At this time, it was, vaccinated, not vaccinated. And at the same time, they started all this, as they say, racist propaganda. So what they made from society, which was really, I would say, Canadians in this regard were never racist. People who think Canadians were racist, they don't know what is racism about. It was
I agree.
all the groups and races. It was really good structured, like peaceful. And when I understand they were trying to, okay, races, now they need to get a bigger loan because they were suffered, like not there, I don't know who were suffered 3 years ago, like in the banking, they started, okay, we make loans for, say, black people. I'm not against, but you don't do it this way. You just alienate people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's just even more division, right? So I mean,
more division. It's more division. They say we are fight with racism. No, you create racism, and you already created in society, which was really kind of built on different ideas and was pretty homogeneous. Because I remember Canada in 97 and 2000 and even 2050. Yes, it was gradually developed, but it was nobody care. I didn't care like who is. I was always interested in people from different culture, to learn from them, to hear a story. But here, like, and all this. But when they froze bank account, that's it. So I thought that all society should understand what does it mean. And this.
So let me ask you, Emily, what do you? One of the most disappointing things for me recently was I was back in Canada, and I was surprised at the lack of concern about these sorts of things. Like I like like you said, the moment. I mean, you can have like the mask mandates and the vaccine against the anti-vax and all that. But once you've shut down and lock up somebody's bank account, I think that should have been the trigger for a lot of people, and it doesn't seem to have been. Like it's just The trucker rally and donating to that was it was in my mind just ridiculous, and it was just disappointing. So you've seen this before in Russia and Ukraine, and what do you think it is like? And obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in Israel right now, and the whole Palestinians against Israelis, and that's so disappointing too. But there's so much media brainwashing that goes on. But why is it that you think people are willing to just sort of look the other way when they have those sorts of things? Is it just like optimism and hope that my country isn't turning into an authoritarian regime? Because I think a lot of I think Canadians have had so many generations of it so good that they don't think about what could be in the future for the country. And not all countries stay the same. I mean, we had the fall of empires many times, right? Rome,
Yep.
the British Empire, all sorts of Greek Empire. They get comfortable with themselves and they forget the lessons that they've learned. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on why people aren't more upset about that and kind of stopping that.
All the above. And actually, I mean, whatever you mentioned, because I was thinking about it as well, and we discussed with my mom, and kind of my biggest disappointment with the West in general, not only Canada, but Canada, yes, as country I live, that first of all, they don't know history. They didn't learn from history, or they didn't understand how quickly it can be turned out, and they don't know what is a freedom. Because you know what, and I shared with you, I was surprised. I thought if I understand that people like around me who raised up on the freedom ideas should be concerned about, losing the freedom. But probably people don't appreciate something that they grew up with. They think it's natural like air. I don't know. Or they're so busy, so indifferent. And it's what kind of they're trying to make us really be very busy with, economical difficulties and mortgage and work. But it was for every society. Look, maybe it's not good comparison like people in Israel. At the beginning, they were not silent. It's a different mentality. If something not good, they loud, they saying. And so why Canadians? I had kind of, and again, who is Canadians today? It's a mix of people coming from different cultures. And by the way, I notice that immigrants sometimes more passionate about freedom, and we've seen it. And I was supporting Freedom Convoy.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that the immigrants in Canada are some of the best right now for being the loudest about it. My wife is from Ecuador. And in the 90s, Ecuador was a powerhouse in South America with oil, rich in oil and everything, much like Venezuela. And then they unfortunately elected a socialist government. And I think it was 1999 where they started freezing bank accounts there too. And then they you couldn't take out more than $10,000 out of the bank. And then the whole economy collapsed, the currency collapsed, and they ended up pegging the currency to the US dollar. And they're in the process now of trying to come out of socialism with a new president. But that's the time that my wife grew up in, right? So she understands this, and she's, looks at the world of, they see in the Netherlands, right? The government cracks down on farmers, and in France, and and Germany, and it's not just Canada, it's not just the U.S. and Australia and New Zealand. We've got a lot of people coming from that area to Latin America now, because Latin America, the government's had a history of socialism, but they kind of leave you alone, and they're going more capitalist, right? Where it's almost like this reverse, right? But North America is becoming more socialist, authoritarian, whereas the countries down here have experienced it and go, we don't want that. It doesn't work. And so they're very aware of it. And any sign of that, like here in Panama City right now, any sign of that kind of gets shot down, right? But yeah, maybe it's just because Canadians are always so polite. But maybe the immigration will help that. People coming from other places go, hey, just a minute, we came to Canada to get away from this. Let's not recreate it here.
But there are different people coming to Canada. There is my concern as well. With all respect, and I'm an immigrant myself, there are a lot of issues. But let's go why Canadians and actually other Westerners, it's not only too polite, too compliant. They
Fair
too
enough.
you used to be compliant, used to believe whatever government is doing. Even always there are some people, who have their opinion, but even they have their opinion, it's better to be nice, it's better to agree, it's better just, we're a peaceful country. It's another side of the coin. We
But
always for
how
peace.
how do you marry that? I agree, but how do you marry that with the division? Like, Trudeau himself says, should we tolerate the anti-vaxxers, right? When you use the word tolerate for your own people in your country, that's a very divisive thing. And
Absolutely. It was silent propaganda. Like I initially, okay, what he want to do, he was really want to divide. Whatever he is telling, you need to turn it upside down, and it's exactly what the kind of not like in all this. Like I cannot listen to him because for me it's obvious. Maybe for other people, you need to take time to understand that what he's telling actually look what he's doing, and and in economical terms and practical terms, like all this spending, all these taxes. Well, what our country became better. No, they became richer, not us. They built their power and all this manipulation with elections. Like I don't want to go even to this angle because for me it's clear long ago. But now coming back to the question, why Canadians? And I was thinking, I was even more disappointed with Americans than Canadians. Even it's kind of different. Why? Because historically, and I love the history, like what was the division, between American Revolution and people who became subject of a royal family. Because yes, here on the south of border, we have people who were kind of historically more active and they fight for independence, which became United States of America with all the gradations they have now. But it was different spirit, yes, different spirit, entrepreneurship, and Canadians with kind of the same people, but more again. We agree to be under the crown, We agree to be subject. It's the same what's happening in Australia, and I have kind of understanding for kind of love the series about Windsor royal family. But guys, look at our life,
But
what we are
do you,
paying for.
I mean, I sort of feel, and I don't know if you feel this way, but it was the overall plan was to start in the education system. And,
Absolutely.
and I have an analogy that I always thought about. When I was young, it was like the IBM, I was a technology guy. So it was the IBM, Microsoft, Apple kind of wars back in the 80s, early 90s. And Apple was getting pummeled, right? They got to the point where they just, was debatable whether they were going to survive as a company. And Steve Jobs basically decided that what we need to do is give free Macintosh computers to the schools, because then the kids will all graduate knowing Macs and they won't know PCs and Windows, and they're going to all want to work on Macs. And that really rescued that company. And then, 10, 15 years later, when all those kids are graduating from college and university, they want to work on Macs. So they're going to put Macs in their companies, all those sorts of things. It was a brilliant strategy and it worked. And look at Apple today. It's one of the largest companies in the world. But, and IBM is, basically way down. I think that was, a very similar plan for the socialism and communism kind of plan to indoctrinate, for lack of a better term, in the schools. And, the kids that are graduating now, and you talk to them and they talk about socialism would be a good idea because we want the government to take care of us. It's like the government will never take care of you. That's not what they do, right? The government is only the people, and people have human nature, and human nature is to get ahead of everybody else. So I think it's what are your thoughts on the education side of things, the education system?
Oh, it's a very painful question for me because I had kind of similar discussion with my own children who Canadians, as I say, the Canadians, because And I was very upset even from the earlier with all this at the beginning. We thought, okay, and we were always critical of our education, that we were indoctrinated, we were brainwashed in our schools. But at least at age 20, I think majority already understood who is who and what is under the words, nice words. They were not. Why? Because I think the life was still comfortable, pretty comfortable. And yes, like I was coming from teacher's family. My mother-in-law is teacher, and I used to, yes, you need to listen to teachers. When I was going every semester to school, to one daughter and others, and after then, the education, maybe math. No, they don't know math anyway. Even they have computers. But what was really missing, and now I think by purpose, like they don't know history, even history of Canada, because even the history of Canada, they're learning, I don't know for how many years, and they don't understand. They don't teach them critical thinking, no questioning, no kind of having another opinion. All is nice, all is good, everyone is accepted. It's all okay, but they didn't learn about socialism. A lot of kind of classes were given about fascism, even Nazi, even on the high level as well, because all this understanding kind of on the surface, like, okay, we know about it, when actually you don't know what brought to it, what were the causes. I mean, only people who really starting learning maybe university or have interest to read the books, and look, all this image of hero, path of hero, and heroes like of American culture and Canadian. Where's the heroes now? Who is hero now? Who is crying the most? It's a hero, like, all upside down.
Yeah, it's that victim mentality has been taught too. It's like, whoever's the big victim. And that's why, I think we were talking about the racism earlier. I think if you can play the race card and, whatever,
card.
you just add up and you're at the top of the pyramid if you're a few of those things, right? So
destruction of the family. And
yeah,
it's actually like even at school, what's going now with all this transgender idea, I'm just furious. I'm just furious because it's not only propaganda, it's mutilation of children, what they do. And they frightening the parents saying, okay, your child will be suicidal, and he will be suicidal after all this, surgeries and hormonal therapy and brainwashing. Like what I see, they want just to kill young generation. All the drug, but speaking about, it's all indoctrination. It's all, and by the way, I'm looking now at schools, and I'm happy that at least my children now above the school, and it's not only Canada. It's the same in United States and also called, educated free world. Where's the education? I'm asking. Where's the education? So all the education is coming to sex. So all the richness of personal development and civilization and all the science, all what they learning from kindergarten, it's this uncertainty about the sex. It's not brainwashing. It's just to make them unstable psychologically, and they killing at the same time the all psychiatrist institution. It's kind of stories that I'm observing as well.
I'm really glad that my kids are past the education age now too, and at least probably got a bit of that, but not like it is today. But one of the reasons I'm living down in in Latin America now is because the culture here puts family first, not
absolutely,
and it really creates a bit of a barrier against that woke mentality, right? That it stops the destruction of the family, because family is so important here. Everybody takes care of each other inside the family, and I really appreciate that. In North America, it used to be more career. Now it's like what kind of victimhood do you have, right? But down here, it's just way more culturally oriented to be about family. Anyway, we've got to wrap up here pretty soon. It's been great talking to you, but I just want to ask you, I think we're creating these Veritas Villages, first ones here in Panama, and then we'll likely be in Mexico and planning or in Mexico, Costa Rica, Argentina. What are your thoughts on, finding a community with like-minded people for where you can say the kind of things we're saying today without getting canceled or censored? So I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Patrick, it's a reason I'm here at your webinar, and it's a reason that I'm doing what I'm doing. And and because I was kind of devastated to observe what's happening in Canada and other countries, it became my mission to help people like you and people who looking for the places and don't know where to go. Because it's how I understand the freedom. It's how I understand to help people, and I would like to live in such community of like-minded people, and it's one of the reasons that I am actually launching my own podcast, Age of Reinvention: How to Find a New Freedom Lifestyle and Purpose at Midlife, because I understand that with all difficulties of relocation, I'm oriented to help people after 50, because I associate with this group better and I understand priority and challenges of these people. But I'm fully supporting even crypto community. Even I don't have crypto myself, but I understand that it's needed. I understand that it's a parallel, and this development would somehow diminish the big banking system and all this, because I personally don't see another way. And I feel that only when people are united in living in communities, because it's very hard to be in different countries. Like we cannot have even account, I think, crypto account now in Canada. I've had one, it was closed. but but it's not only account, all fabric of life, of society, family, which is so dear to me. I come, from the very family-oriented society and people, and I believe even people don't have maybe their own family like members, but only in these communities people can survive.
Well, thank you very much, Emily. And you mentioned earlier, like, where are the heroes? And I'd just like to say, I think you're one of the heroes, Emily, because you're helping people find these ways to live again in a freedom-oriented community and freedom-oriented countries. And I think that's a huge thing for people. I don't know if they appreciate it like they should, but I think time will tell, history will tell. You've done the right thing, you're doing the right thing, and it's great that you're helping people. I'm glad there's people like yourself in Canada that still see the writing on the wall and have the history to know what's happened before, and you can see it coming. I hope more people wake up and open their eyes to what's going on. I love Canada. I don't like to bash Canada at all. It's a beautiful country that I grew up in, and multiple provinces that I've lived in. It's just I don't like the authoritarian turn that it's taken, and I don't think it's even whichever party you elect. I think the problem is bigger than which party, and
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
Talking earlier about left versus right, I don't really care. I think I've always been pretty much down the middle. I think the left has moved, and the left and right has moved a little on the spectrum.
The left is corrupted with socialism and worst kind of all these classes, groups, and just distort people from the real problems. It's where people confused as well. It's their purpose, and I don't do it for history or whatever. It's how I feel, and I cannot be on the side, because just to speak about it, even I don't have many people to speak around. People afraid to speak about. People afraid to think about. I'm not, but because I feel somebody should do something, and I do what I can. And I came with the idea of my company. I'm still kind of struggling, I mean, as a solopreneur to be visible. Now I think that podcast will help me. And now I know there is a censorship law in Canada. And I think how I can avoid it, because I lived in Soviet Union. I understand how it can be, but we do what we can.
Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate you very much being on our little podcast here. It's been great talking to you again, and we will talk again soon, and we'll have you back on. And again, I'm just glad that there's people like you to see what's going on. So thank you, Emily. We'll talk soon.
Ready to help. Let's be in touch. Bye.
Perfect. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.